Imagine going underground just for fun, and never coming back. Slipping into a small tunnel, the size of a dog door, with only a flashlight and your own breath to guide you. You're crawling slowly. It's cold, it's dark, the walls are squeezing in, and suddenly you can't move. You're stuck. You try to go back, but it's too late. The tunnel has swallowed you. This is not just a nightmare. It really happened. In 1982, a brave scout leader entered the Crooked Swamp Cave in New Jersey with his 2 sons and their scout group. It was supposed to be a fun day of exploring underground. But that day turned into one of the most heartbreaking and difficult cave rescues in American history. This is the tragic true story of Donald Weltner, a man who got stuck in the earth and never made it back out. Let's go back to the beginning. It was March 27th, 1982. Donald Weltner, a 45-year-old scoutmaster, was preparing for a big day. He had planned a caving adventure for his Boy Scout troop. He was excited. He loved caves and wanted to teach the kids about exploration. Donald was tall and slim, around 5 feet 11 inches and 160 pounds. That helped when it came to crawling through narrow tunnels. He had been caving before and knew what he was doing. He brought along his 2 sons, Roger and Christopher. Another scoutmaster named Jim was also helping lead the group. They were headed to a place called the Crooked Swamp Cave in New Jersey. It wasn't a huge cave, but it was known to be tricky. The entrances were small, the paths were tight, and the underground tunnels twisted in strange directions. Still, Donald felt ready. At 2 p.m., the group of 12 boys and 2 leaders arrived at the cave. The entrance was small, just 16 inches tall and 28 inches wide. That's about the size of a car tire. One by one, they crawled inside. The boys were excited, nervous, and full of energy. Donald told them to stick to the bigger rooms and stay away from small passages unless an adult gave permission. Soon they reached a main room about 300 square feet wide. It had a high ceiling, so they could stand up and move freely. Donald stayed near the east side, while Jim watched over the west side. Around the room were several small tunnels, some just big enough for one person to squeeze through. Donald noticed one tunnel nearby. It looked like it might lead to another section of the cave. He decided to explore it. He turned to his sons and said, "I'm going to check this tunnel. Don't follow me. Wait here." The tunnel was extremely narrow, about 18 inches by 20 inches. Donald got down on his stomach and began to crawl forward. The floor was muddy and wet. He could slide a bit more easily, but it was very tight. His arms stretched ahead, his chest rubbed against the floor, and he had to keep his head turned sideways because there wasn't enough room to lift it. As he moved forward, something terrible happened. The floor below him gave way. Donald's body suddenly dropped forward into a narrow crevice. He slid several feet and became completely stuck. The space below had a strange keyhole shape. It was wider at the top and pinched in sharply at the bottom, just 5 inches across. That's about as wide as a soda can. Donald couldn't move. His arms were trapped at his sides. His legs were sticking out of the tunnel behind him. He shouted back to his sons, "Stop! Don't come any closer!" He knew something was very wrong. Donald called out for help. His son Christopher tried pulling his legs, but it didn't help. The mud made it too slippery, and the pressure of the rocks held his body tightly. "Go get Jim," Donald said. Jim arrived quickly and saw Donald's boots sticking out. He grabbed the legs and pulled, but Donald screamed in pain. "It hurts! It's worse when you pull!" he cried. So Jim stopped, but as he let go, Donald's body slid even deeper. The weight of the rock was pushing him downward, and gravity was doing the rest. They tried to calm him down. He was still alert and talking, but he wasn't getting out on his own. Jim knew this was beyond anything they could handle. He called emergency services. Soon, police officers, cave rescue experts, and emergency workers arrived. They tried everything they could think of. They tied ropes around Donald's legs and pulled, but it only caused more pain. They brought in chisels and hand tools to chip away the rock. But they had to be extremely careful. One wrong move could cause a collapse. The cave temperature was just 57 degrees Fahrenheit, and they were afraid of hypothermia. Donald kept talking for the first few hours. He even made jokes, trying to stay positive. But the situation was getting worse. There was a second entrance to the cave nearby. Two experienced cavers, sisters named Lynn and Nancy Taylor, were brought in. They were both small and had helped in other rescues before. Nancy was 5 feet 2 inches and 105 pounds. Lynn was even smaller, just 5 feet tall and 86 pounds. If anyone could squeeze into the tunnel, it was them. Lynn went through the second entrance, crawling carefully toward Donald. She got very close, just 2 feet from his head. But then the space narrowed to just 5 inches wide. Even she couldn't fit through. She stretched her hand as far as she could, but she couldn't reach him. Now the rescuers had a terrible problem. They couldn't reach his head, and they couldn't pull him back. And Donald was getting colder, weaker, and quieter. Late on Saturday night, the rescue team began digging from above the cave. They hoped to reach Donald by going straight down through the rock. They used backhoes and even small amounts of dynamite. It was dangerous. The ground was soft in some spots and solid in others. They worked through Sunday. By Sunday evening, they had dug down to the right depth. But they were still about 12 feet away from Donald's body. Inside the cave, his voice was growing fainter. At 2 a.m. on Monday, they called to him. This time, there was no clear response, only weak groaning. Doctors said he was likely suffering from severe hypothermia. His body temperature was dropping. His organs were starting to shut down. They worked faster. They had no time to lose. On Tuesday morning, more than 80 hours after Donald first got stuck, rescuers finally reached his body. A doctor crawled into the tunnel and checked him. Donald Weltner was dead. The official report said he likely died between Sunday night and early Monday morning. He had been trapped in that terrible position for more than 3 days. Even after he died, it took another full day to remove his body. The cave was so tight that they had to break away more rock to bring him out safely. Over 150 people helped in the rescue. They worked non-stop for 4 days, using every tool and trick they had. But it wasn't enough. The Crooked Swamp Cave was closed to the public after this tragedy. Donald Weltner is remembered as a brave scoutmaster, a loving father, and a man who stayed calm in the darkest moment of his life. Donald's story was tragic, but Floyd Collins, trapped 17 days in a cave, his ending was even darker. Tap to watch.